And we are live. Hello, Pro EDU community and all of our friends out there in the webiverse. Welcome to another live discussion panel with the Pro team, where today we are going to talk about Luxe Portraiture and Retouching, the newest tutorial to be released by Pro EDU. It's actually launching tomorrow. We're so super excited, guys. We've been waiting to get this tutorial out to you guys for a while now. There's so much good stuff in there and we can't wait to share it. And part of the amazing thing that we get to do is work with a group of Pro EDU community members who are known as the Pro team. They get to go through this tutorial before it's released to the public so that they can actually see what the tutorial is all about, give us some feedback on it, and then they basically become a sounding board for you guys so that they can tell you all of the things about the tutorial, and you can ask them the questions that you have about whether or not this tutorial is going to be the right thing for you. You can ask them what's in it. You can ask them how they felt about it. Any questions you guys have about the tutorial, you get to ask today. So let me introduce a few of the amazing folks who are here with me today. We have with us Dave and Barbara and Olga and Carlos. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Yay, so excited. George is also supposed to be here today, but we're having some technical difficulties. So hopefully he will pop in. George, we miss you. I'm so sorry. I hope you can get in here. So if he does, that will be awesome. He'll pop up and we'll be able to chat with him. So first, everybody, yet again, welcome back to the live discussion panel. If you missed it at the beginning, this live discussion panel is a chance for you guys to ask all of your questions about Luxe Portraiture and Retouching, anything you want to know about it, from what's in it to who it's going to be good for. Is it going to be right for you? How long is it? Were there photo shoots in it? Any questions you guys have? We want to make sure that our awesome Pro team members who have had the chance to experience this tutorial firsthand can give you their feedback and make sure that this is right for you. So really quickly, before we get started, I just want to welcome our friends that are here with us already. Jay, David, Dennis, Jeff, Dustin, Dale. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Please, friends in the audience, don't be afraid to ask questions. I can see them all. In fact, I can pop you guys up here. That way, if you have a question, it really helps everybody else to see what you asked and know that if they have that question too, it answers it for them. So really quickly, what is Luxe Portraiture and Retouching? It is a tutorial by Jay Mayhew, who is not only an amazing photographer and business owner, but a wonderful teacher. And she is going to walk you through basically her entire process from first contact with clients, how she welcomes them, how she schedules them, what she does during consultations, all the way through the shoot, how she plans and styles them, how she works with them on set, the kind of lighting that she uses, and then how she sells to them afterwards, basically building a six-figure business purely on word of mouth by giving her clients amazing service. So guys here on the discussion panel today, everybody, first, thank you guys for being willing to be here and share your time so that we can help out our community. Really, really appreciate you guys so much. All right, so right on. Jeff has actually got our first question going up. It's 7.5 hours, right? What's the breakdown of business, shooting, retouching, etc.? So for Pro team members, you guys who have gone through, what do you think you see the most of? Business, shooting, retouching? What do you think is the biggest parts of the tutorial?
For me, I think one of the things that she really focuses on the tutorial was the interaction with the client and how to really communicate with them and connect with them so that you can create good photos. So that's one thing I saw, really being able to connect with your client and pose them correctly, direct them so that you can get that proper expression. And, in the end, these are products for the client. So because the client is happy, you get more referrals and then your business grows. So that is one thing for sure that I saw during this tutorial.
Right on. Did anybody else have any good observations for, is it really business heavy? Is it shooting heavy? Do we get a lot of retouching? What do you guys think the balance is like?
I saw that it was pretty heavily shooting involved as far as your stylist, your makeup, your having a stylist on set, and getting it right in camera, all those types of deals. That was my takeaway. It was mostly shooting oriented. As far so the last one we did was Nino Batista's, and that was very heavy in the retouching. So this is almost the opposite spectrum. This is very heavy in the shooting.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. There's a little, what I saw, I didn't get to see everything, but there was a little bit of business, but I feel like it was mostly shooting and there was some retouching. But yeah, definitely, she talks a lot about like what Carlos was saying, communicating with your client, and just the way she communicates is really easy to understand. So I really like that about it.
I agree.
See, I agree
Olga,
too. Sorry. I think that the main thing she actually focuses on is the client experience. So that is a little bit more heavy-handed in the actual shoot itself, but I think she's trying to show you how to direct your clients, how to speak to them, even before, but during the shoot, creating that experience. So that's probably the biggest part of the tutorial, is just like this luxury, client experience.
right on. Yeah, great question, Jeff. And so what we're going to do really quickly, now that we've kind of opened up and we've got our friends here with us, is we're actually going to look at a little video from the tutorial, an introduction, so you guys can see what it looks like. So check this out, friends.
I think as a woman, there's something really special about being proud of all of your hard work in life, and as you grow and evolve, become a mother, become successful in your business, you start realizing that it would be really wonderful to document where you are in life. So it's pretty special to find somebody who that's their mantra and that's their passion, is to help women see that you are so worthy and you're so special, and then to create these beautiful pieces that you'll have for your whole life.
Luxe Portraiture is this little bit of fantasy that you're giving to your clients in the midst of their portraits. It's this ability to elevate what you're seeing in them, to maybe let them see this side of themselves that they haven't before been acquainted with. My clients come to me looking for this model experience, looking to be treated like a celebrity for the day. I try not to use that lingo. I think it's a little bit corny, but that really is what they're looking for. They're looking to be pampered. They're looking to be seen. They're looking to be loved on just a little bit. They're looking to just have the most beautiful portraits of themselves that they've ever had taken, and that's what I give them. And of course there's retouching, of course there is beautiful lighting, there's hair and makeup artists, but what I'm giving them back, it should of course look like them, but the most beautiful version of them. And that little bit of fantasy element, it's that editorial piece. It's that piece that is the best angles. It's the lighting that I have learned from my fashion and commercial background. It's what I'm going to teach you. It's how to find those angles. It's how to elevate your work to stand apart. But it's not just the pictures. As artists, as photographers, that's what we focus on. If we're not getting clients, we think it's the work. We always go back to the work. But there's so much more than that. What if you could create an experience that marketed for you? What if you could have clients who were so thrilled with what you did that they paid you 10 grand and then sent you gifts and then marketed to their friends so that they sent you clients? What if you could build a 6-figure business that marketed itself for you? I'm going to teach you how to do that. I cannot wait to teach you how to build a luxury portrait business. Let's get started. That's what we focus on.
Ooh, so good. So good. Also, George is here. Welcome, George. I'm so glad you made it. Yay.
How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Super,
Good.
super excited to have everybody,
Sorry
man.
for
All right.
technical difficulties, but I'm here.
It happens. Roberta said, I'm so excited for it. Jay is phenomenal. I'm excited to hear her talking to her clients, shooting and capturing those gorgeous shots. Yes, we are too. All right, guys. So let's start getting into the meat of it a little bit. And we'll just kind of go one at a time. I'll start with Dave and just move through the list. So initial first impressions, guys, like what is your kind of main overarching thought or feeling about this tutorial? Dave, let's start with you.
All right. My primary main thought about this, I had written it down, but I don't know if I'll be able to pull up the notes that quick. I can. Here we go. My major main thought about this was communicating with your clients, regardless of who your client is. You know, some photographers out here that may be watching this, they might photograph people, they might photograph places, they might photograph things. Or things for people or places for people, but there's people involved somehow. And the important aspects I saw was to approach all the situations with the same type of energy and vibrancy as any other situation that you have. So if you're the same energy that you have, you know, photographing, you know, somebody's wedding or somebody's, you know, first boudoir shoot would be the same type of energy you need to have in other genres. For this particular genre, it was great. It was awesome. One of the things I saw was it was great that she was able to interact with Monique. I think that was Monique, and the initial interaction, the initial shoots, the initial first photos. You were like, okay, there's something happening here, and by the end, there was a comfort zone that Jay was able to create with her subject in order to make those images. And I felt that at the end of each piece, when she had those final images and she's doing the culling of each subject she had, I felt that they were more photos of the people's personalities as opposed to photos of just people. Because you can go out on the street and snap photos of just people, but when you curate the makeup, the hair, the wardrobe, the props, live plants that you spray paint so you have the right color scheme and everything, when you put all that together and have that passion and drive to tell someone's internal story and pull it out of them, awesome. And then obviously you can take that same philosophy and apply it across many genres and whatever genres you want to shoot. You know, it might be a building, but you're going to make it the best building picture you've ever taken by talking to the clients and saying, you know what, let's makeup and wardrobe for a building is let's sweep the sidewalks and clean the windows. You know, those types of things are things that are important to think about. And this tutorial got me thinking, all right, well, that the photographer isn't just a button pusher. You know, that was one of the things that it got me thinking, going, you know, we have not necessarily we have to be people persons. We don't have to enjoy necessarily interaction with people, because I don't like crowds, you know, not just because of the last year, but I've never liked crowds. I'd much rather have a close-knit group of people as opposed to a whole bunch of people. It's not a very fun thing. But as a photographer, the communication and engagement with whatever space you happen to be in is incredibly important, especially when it comes to intimate subjects with your clients. And having that, yeah, that sums it up, you know, being present in the moment, not just for yourself or for the art, but for your client, is much more important than whether or not, you know, the photo is, you know, going to hang at MoMA or something. It's more important that you've captured what your client wants based off of their wishes and your skill and passion and talent for the art.
I think that's such a good point, Dave. And I love that you brought up Monique, because her reveal at the end is one of my favorite parts, because you can just see everything that's happening. And I remember telling her at the time, you know, her inability to be eloquent was more eloquent than if she had said all of the things, because she was feeling things so deeply, seeing those images of herself, the ones that you're talking about. So I loved that. Barbara, for you, what has been your big observation from what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, it was just amazing to watch her work, like from the beginning to, the end. She's so down to earth, and I've followed her work before, and it's just so cool to see her process and just the way she communicates to her clients and models. It's just so warm. Like, I'd feel like I'd be very comfortable in front of the camera if she was photographing me. And yeah, and as a photographer watching this tutorial, I mean, you learn so much, and you could shoot pretty much, like Dave was saying, any genre and pick up this valuable information. It was just, I loved it. And again, just her communication with her clients, and I feel like it was all about the client experience, which was just phenomenal. So yeah, I loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's my one of my favorite parts as well is and seeing it in person even is just amazing, because you can tell how much she cares about the women that she's photographing, and how much it matters to her that she's giving them what they need to feel seen and beautiful. And it's just such a fantastic thing to watch.
And it wasn't just that. I mean, for photographers who want to learn technical, the lighting, all that's there too. Like, she explains her lights, what lights she uses. She shows images, this light, I shot this image with this light. And it's so cool to see, her shooting a client, what lights she's using, how she's retouching it, and seeing the final product, just the whole process. It's really cool to see.
Agreed.
Yeah.
George, what did you think? What's your kind of big overarching thoughts so far? You're muted, friend. I'm trying to unmute you, but it's not letting me.
Amateur.
There we go.
There you are.
So, honestly, this is important. This tutorial, it takes you on a journey, right? The organization is what really, really captured me, right? She talks about setting up her consultations and how she'll do that via FaceTime. How important that is now to be able to still have those client meetings via FaceTime. But also the customer package that she sends out to the customer, the organization, and then she takes you through her whole process, from setting up the consult to session planning, wardrobe. She talks to us about setting up those things and working with people. She made the comment that she surrounds herself with people who make her want to do better or be better. And I thought that was, and I may be paraphrasing that wrong, but she said something to that extent, and I thought that was really good, that she surrounds herself with other professionals in her field to make her better, right? And I think what she provides in this tutorial is really like a one-stop shop for anyone. To Dave's point, you can apply the things in this tutorial to pretty much every facet of photography, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's landscape. You can apply these same things, that she's talking about in this tutorial to your business, making you more successful. And I love the fact that she speaks about lighting patterns on the faces and introducing shadows and talking about mood. I love that she addresses those things, because some of these things you don't see in photography or some photography today. So it was really cool to see that. It's a lot of little nuggets and gems in this tutorial, whether it's from the business side to the shooting side. I really, really love the consultation and the client photographer relationship building pieces of this tutorial. Very much needed to be discussed, to dive into. Thought it was really cool that was included in that. And she gives you all of this in the tutorial. You could walk away, just running and starting up your business, watching this. She gives you the gems to actually get started. So I thought that the communication, the packaging, everything was just really summed up and pulled together, wrapped up beautifully.
I have to agree with you on that. Like, you guys keep mentioning, you know, her ability to communicate with the clients, and I could not drive that home enough for people who are considering this tutorial. Just knowing how to give your client an amazing experience, but also how to show up for them beforehand and during and after, and how to pinpoint what it is they need and really care about that and empathize with what they're going through in that experience. Man, it's such a powerful thing.
Agree. Totally agree.
Jay said, I'm trying to corner the market into luxury maternity, so I'm really excited for this release. The focus on the client and their experience is what I'm looking forward to improving with this tutorial. And I think you're going to get that 110%, Jay.
110%, yes.
So Olga, what are your thoughts, kind of your overall thoughts on the tutorial?
I'm just going to mirror what everyone else said. I think the biggest thing that popped out at me is just reminding me about the client experience and how important it is that, you know, it's our world and we live in this world. We're not the client and we're just used to seeing pretty photographs, but these people aren't. And most of the time, you know, you grow up as a little girl seeing Vogue and seeing all these cover photos and you're like, that could never be me. And just reminding yourself what impact that could be of taking that whole experience and giving it to somebody who thought that they would never be able to do that, I think is the biggest takeaway and a good reminder to like really foster that a relationship between photographer and client, let them know that you're going to make their photos be amazing and beautiful and you're just as excited as they are with the final images. And like everyone was saying, Monique's reveal, I was just like, oh, it was so beautiful.
I know, it gave me all the feels.
I want those clients. I want people, and I was going to do those types of reveals, but for some reason I never did. And I think even that little blip is just a good reminder to like how you make people feel. And at the end of the day, it's what our relationship is with our clients and friends and people and everything. That's what makes the world go round.
Agreed. Yeah, the feels. I feel like the feels are deep in this tutorial all the way through. Like, there's so many times where you're like, oh, it's so good. You get a little verklempt, you know, having the feelings. Carlos, what about you? What are your kind of overall thoughts of the tutorial?
So everybody's been talking about the client experience, and that's what the tutorial is about, and getting them to be able to take pictures. And one of the key things, and you'll see this in the tutorial, one of the key things that I saw was there's a video on posing your client, and I think it was with Anna, one of the models. I just fell in love with that because there were so many good nuggets that she told that could be applicable. For example, I took a note here. Oh, she talked about when you pose your models, use language that empowers women and don't just call them, oh yeah, that looks hot, or yeah, that looks sexy. No, use words that empower. That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. You're a queen. So that was one of the things that she talked about really well, because like she said in the video, you want to speak up for your clients, okay? We want to be able to empower them through our words in our photos so that they can go out and feel empowered themselves and go out after the shoot and treat themselves. And then on the client side, everybody's been talking about the client. And you guys at PRO EDU, that intro video, when I first saw it with the client doing a testimonial before, you know, Jai introduces herself, that was just, you know, it hit hard, and I really feel that this is what this tutorial is about: getting the client to come to your studio, set them up for success, take some amazing photos, and empower women through the shoot.
So many good observations, guys. I love this. Friends who are watching, don't forget, you can ask questions of the Pro team. Anything you would like to know about this tutorial, their honest thoughts, that is the goal here. So please go ahead and put those in the comments. They will pop up here for me so that I can see them and let everybody know. You know, they can answer them and let you know what they think. So one of the things I really wanted to address that seems to be a sticking point, and it always causes contention for photographers, is selling. And it's always so hard for us to sell, right? And one of the things that Jay does that has made a huge difference in the amount that she's able to sell is doing the culling with the client afterwards and allowing them to see these unedited images. Sorry, friends. And look through and actually choose their own photos. So what are your guys' thoughts on that part of the tutorial? Do you think that that's something that will work for you? Did it convince you, or is it something you feel like you're willing to kind of try with your clients? What do you guys think?
I actually did not get to see that, but now that you talk about it, that's actually what I do with my clients.
I'd love to hear your experience then.
Yeah, and I actually changed that when I first started my photography journey, not that long ago, about 5 years ago. I was doing in-person reveals where I edited maybe 20, 25 images. I would print them and I would have them displayed for them to look at. And, you know, some of the time the clients would buy them all, but not very often. Most of the time they would maybe buy half of the images. So I realized, you know, I'm spending so much time editing and printing, and maybe they're going to take half of these or even less in some cases. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to do digital reveals. They're going to look at the images before they're edited and choose the ones that they want, because sometimes the ones that I picked are not their favorites. You know, they might be mine, but not theirs necessarily. So, so yeah, I've actually had bigger sales doing it that way because I'm showing them more images. I can show them 50 or 60, and then it's harder for them to keep eliminating images because you're showing so many. So you do end up selling more images, and they're getting their favorites. So yeah, it's worked out a lot better for me, and it saves time and money because you don't have to.
Right. And time is money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's worked for me. So
that's outstanding. And have you found as well, it's my experience that clients become much more invested at that point when they feel like they get a say in what happens and which images they get and which get edited. Have you found that has made a difference for them as well?
Yeah, I think so, because they have more input. Like, oh, you know, I really like this, but sometimes, especially with like family sessions, you know, you might get the child that maybe the whole image looks great, but the kid was looking another direction. Well, they asked me, can you swap the eyes from that one to this one? I'm like, sure, I can do that. That's, you know, that's not a big deal. So yeah, they have, I feel like they have more control over, yeah, they want this one in black and white, or they want this one in this size. And so yeah, I think they enjoy that process, and yeah, it works great for everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that you hadn't gotten to that part, but that's like, you already know.
Yeah. And I think for some photographers, it's a scary prospect because, you know, showing unedited images, they might think, oh, they're not going to like them. But, you know, if you have a consistent portfolio and the client comes to you because obviously they must have seen your work, so they're familiar with your work. So I think they should know what to expect. So if you're showing consistent work, then they know, you know, you can explain, well, this is not edited, but, you know, you've seen my work, so it's going to look like this, you know, in the end. So, yeah, I think in my experience, they don't worry about that because they know what they're going to get.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Any other pro team members, what did you guys think of this whole idea of culling with your clients and letting them see unfinished images and choose their own shots?
I loved it because I am a lazy photographer, and the less I have to edit, the better. But no, seriously, because I mean, I've sent raw galleries before, but I think having them, the way her process is editing, or having them pick out the day of the shoot, because you know you're still hyped up and you're really excited, and you're not really paying attention to all the things that as a photographer you're like, oh, raw images, they're gonna see things, I'm so scared. But I think it really saves a lot of time, and also kind of you take a peek into the world where they do see it before. So like the final images are even that much cooler because it's like, this is the finished product. You are an art piece.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the experience, right? And that's, you know, that's the whole idea of selling the experience. And to get your clients' input during the culling session, just after the shoot is concluded, I even took it a step further when I did a little bit more portraiture. I would also take the images that they've selected and I paired them with the images that I thought were the strongest images and created a gallery that would allow the customer to then again go through those same images and re-rate them, right? And then, at the end of the day, it did increase sales. There may have been a total sale for 4 images, but once they got a chance to really see the full array of images that were captured in that gallery later on, at their home, in front of their personal computer during their downtime, it did increase the number of sales that I received from portraiture for those clients because they were able to actually not only see it after we were immediately done, but they again able to sit back and review later on in their own time. So I thought it was a great idea to do that. It makes the customer feel more involved. And again, it's about selling that experience.
Agreed. Dave, Carlos, do you guys have any thoughts on that section of the tutorial?
Yeah, so I like the idea because as a person who's been photographed, I get nervous, like, oh man, I hope I did good. I look terrible. So to have that reassurance immediately after, instead of waiting a week or 2 or maybe a couple days after they choose and edit the images, makes me feel better. Like, okay, I did a good job. So I think for the client as well, it really lifts them up and really relaxes them so that if they see it, they can, ultimately choose more because they like their photos and feel confident in what they produced.
That's a good point. I know that post-shoot nervousness is real when you're waiting to find out and you're like, God, I hope they turned out good. And when you go home, you really start to question yourself, right? Like, of course they said I looked good. Like, they're the photographer, they have to say that, or
Absolutely.
or your friends or your family, even like, how did it go? And then you start questioning and you're like, oh man, I really hope that it turned out okay. And when you get to see them right afterwards, it changes things because you see that it's amazing and you're still in that excited phase where everything is so great. So it's crazy how impactful that is. And Dennis wants to know, do you first eliminate the shots you don't think work before inviting clients to join in on the culling session? And before we get your answers, I'll just say, from Jay's perspective, of course, she gets rid of anything that's crazy, right? Like blinks or funny expressions or whatever, easy to get those out really quick while maybe the client is changing or getting some refreshments and getting ready. So yeah, I think I can say from Jay's perspective, she does. And also Morgan Nelson says, hello, everyone. My first time on this chat. Morgan, welcome. We're so glad to have you in our YouTube audience today. All right. So friends, do you get rid of the crazy stuff for those people who do show clients the unretouched photos or let them choose their own images?
For me, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it depends on when. So sometimes the actual going through the unedited images, for me, I try to get them done right after the session. But if it's a family session, it was several hours and they have little ones and they're tired, sometimes I schedule a separate viewing session with them. And I did that with a couple of last clients I had because it was a family session that lasted a few hours and they were just tired and hungry. And so we went ahead and a few days later, I actually went to their home. They were comfortable, wore a mask and went to their home. And in that case, then I do have more time to go through and just really, have the best ones out there. And then I don't know, in that case, I don't feel like the high of the shoot went away because they were still really excited to see them and they still bought big packages. So it worked out fine. But smaller sessions that, there's more time, well, not more time, but they have more time to hang out at the studio. Then I typically don't go through them first because they're just ready to look at them. We just go through them together and they see what they see. I mean, usually I don't have very many crazy ones. And if there is, maybe they'll laugh. And at that point, I'll just kind of reject it there so that it doesn't come back around if they're, going through them over and over again. So they seem okay with it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Olga, you were also going to answer that one.
Yeah, I think I haven't really done it too much with clients, but I would say with model shoots, and things like that, you do want to go through and cull it, and obviously all blurry stuff, the things that are just hard no, they're just, I don't want that as my portfolio out there. And people do get decision fatigue. So if you have 50 shots of like the same one and the hand is just kind of slightly, they're all nice, but the hand is just kind of slightly askew or something, you don't want to show them that many, because they're just, after a while it's going to be tedious. Like, well, this is not as fun as looking through. So I think you really do have to cull. And I think it's like Jay's method, while they're getting de-dressed down, putting back into their own clothes, it's a good time to go through the shoot and kind of get rid of all those things. And maybe, like you said, cull down from like 500 to 200, or even less, so you don't get that decision fatigue.
That's a really good point. Anybody else have any thoughts in that area? Dave, George, Carlos?
Yeah,
I think.
go ahead.
I think it depends. For me, it depends upon the project and what I'm photographing and what the end game is. So, if when I start a photo project and the scope of work is for whatever, it's photos of a family, then yes, they'll be involved in the decision making process. Obviously, I will root out those shots that are probably out of focus, too much light, blanks, bad shapes, bad whatever, anything from a technical point of view that I can objectively rule out, I will. But anything that could be left up to subjective or interpretation, I'll leave in the set and guide the client through what they want. And obviously, to echo what Olga said, have it not be so a wide berth of choices, because if you have too many choices, you might not even make a single choice and just walk out. If you're left with 200 different choices, you're not going to make one. But primarily, it depends upon the initial scope of work for the project and what the end result is and what the images are going to be used for. At least
Sure.
from my experience.
That's a good point. George?
Yeah, so, to answer the question, it really depends. I had a session I worked with a PR company for a pastry chef that had just signed on to be represented with this PR firm. And I tether when I do portrait work, or when I shoot, period, now, but I tether to a laptop, and the PR team was actually watching the laptop as I was shooting the pastry chef. And there was a shot in particular where the pastry chef she wanted to do the shot where she was actively mixing something. And in the process of doing the shot, somebody made her laugh, and she made this really sharp movement that created motion blur in the image. And they actually selected that for one of the promo shots for her package. So it really depends on, do you take the bad ones out? Do you leave them in? Because you just don't know what could be used and what it may be used for. So it really it depends. I mean, if it's something, sometimes people want to use those shots to maybe show their goofy side or part of their personality that they may feel could promote them or sell them a little bit better. So it depends. It depends.
Yeah, agreed. Carlos, do you have any experience in that area?
Yeah, I definitely shoot tethered as well. And what I'll do is when I see a shot like, oh, this is the money shot, what I'll do is I'll show on my computer, like, hey, this is amazing. Do you like this? And then they're like, oh yeah, I like this. So I'll just mark it and keep it so that I can retouch it later. So I definitely involve the client with me directly. I wouldn't necessarily show them, the whole set, just like Olga was saying, that decision fatigue. So if you have 200, 300 photos, then obviously they're going to get tired of looking at so many pictures. But when you see something good on the camera, let them know, because they may not know what's good or what's bad. So let your client know what's good, and show them that you are excited about that photo.
Yeah, I think sharing your excitement about the photos is actually one of those really powerful tools as well when you're working with them, to let them know that they're doing so wonderfully. And when they see you get excited, and when you're sharing your passion for what you're doing with them as you're working, I mean, that just makes them even more excited and they feel like they're doing a good job. And I love that that's one of those things that Jay mentions, you know, is which Carlos, you said as well, but is always that affirming language, and to constantly be letting them know and building them up, because, you know, most of the time these are not models. These are people who have showed up to, you know, have an experience and get wonderful images, and they don't know posing, and you're walking them through. And so being able to give them that feedback, you know, in live as well, I think is so important. Yeah. So don't forget, friends in the audience, you can ask your questions. Morgan, your question about shooting a birthday, and so she said, what is a reasonable turnaround time for finishing photos, and should I go over the culled image with the person who hired me to take the photos? So Morgan, I think that that's a really detailed question. And since we're focused a lot on the tutorial today, that's one of those things that I don't think we can spend a whole lot of time on, but I can tell you that it's never a bad idea to go over culled images, really, to go over the images with people from a lot of perspectives. But as long as the work is solid and you're comfortable with people seeing those, and it's not going to put you into kind of an apoplexy where you're still in a place where you're not comfortable enough to do that yet, it's great, because you can also help them and guide them with your expertise and let them know, I think this is really strong and here's why. And as far as a reasonable turnaround time, there's no such thing. You need to set that expectation with your client beforehand and have that conversation so that what they need and what you can provide meet in a really happy medium. So that's just really quick. And then I saw that Barbara gave you a really great answer as well. So I hope that helped. And I'm sorry that we couldn't spend more time on it today, since we're mostly focused on the tutorial itself and their experience. But thank you for asking, and Barbara for answering for her as well. All right, guys. So continuing to move on with this tutorial, what do you think was the #1 thing that you're going to take and put into practice for yourself? And what's one thing you probably will skip and not use? Dave, let's start with you.
The #1 thing, that's difficult because there's so many different avenues and different things that Jay did in her tutorial that are good approaches to the craft. So the top thing and a major takeaway from me, and the thing that I would try to incorporate more, even when I start photographing people again, because right now it's just been martinis or beer bottles or liquor bottles. They don't talk back, so I don't really have to engage with them. I do engage with them, but in a different way. Engaging with, having more communication and being open to the ideas of the client, as opposed to tethering yourself or marrying yourself to your own internal ideas, because I mean, unless the shoot is your shoot and you've hired talent for the shoot, that's different. But if you're being hired because of your talent, then it's really the client's wish, I guess. Customer's always right type deal, but you're the guiding factor. I would say that that's the top takeaway, top nugget of knowledge that I would try to incorporate into any future work. And the one that I would probably do the least is client interaction with culling of the photos. As far as culling of the photos in the raw sense, because I don't, all images I've done in the past until now, nobody's seen the raws. They've only seen the complete, for reasons. That's just how I approach the artwork. I'd rather say, this is what it looks like when it's done, not this is what it looked like and this is what I made it look like. I'd rather than have the wow factor of this is all done and complete. But that's my own thing. But that's one thing that I would probably do the least. Is it a good idea? Absolutely. But again, I'll go back and say it depends upon the project and initial scope of work as to how I would handle that situation.
Sure. Totally fair. Barbara, what about you? What was, so far from what you've seen, the one thing that you'll take and use, and maybe something that's not necessarily for you?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it. But from what I did watch, I think gosh, I don't know. It's hard because everything I watched was so, like, it resonated with me so much because I already do bits and pieces of what she does. So it was a great reminder of, wow, or maybe reminds me I should do that more in terms of the marketing, like the little brochures that she gives out, the experience of mailing them this packet. I really liked that, and I'd like to actually try that myself. I never thought of mailing them something, and she made a point when she said, they're investing a lot of money and they don't have anything tangible until, later on when they actually have photographs. So I've wondered about that, like, we have a session schedule, they may have put down a deposit, and the session may not happen for another month or two. And I feel like I need to be giving them something that they can touch and feel. So I really like that idea. So I think I might try and implement that. And in terms of what least, gosh, I don't know. Everything seems so great. Maybe some of the retouching, because I have kind of my own style, and
Sure.
But there were bits and pieces that I thought, okay, I might try that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like none of it was, or any of it was not valuable. It really was. But I think since I have my own retouching process, I probably won't use that as much. But
right. Oh, makes perfect sense. I mean, and that's a great thing about working with these different instructors and these tutorials is that, we each have our own process and our own workflow, and we find these instructors who fit and work for us, and that's the great thing about having so many to choose from. Carlos, what about you? What do you think is the biggest thing that you'll take away, and maybe the one thing that you won't use?
For me, it's the client experience. I'm scared to ask for money sometimes. Like that's personally, that's just a fear. Like, oh, I cost $500 to shoot. So for me, I'm really gonna focus on being confident with a client. I can be sometimes an introvert. So for me, it's definitely getting the confidence to talk to the client, to engage the client, to ask for money, and to give them good quality products. And as far as things that I may or may not use, I think on the retouching side, I think I'm okay just because of my experience as a professional retoucher. I've got my own methods, but I'll definitely look at those and see things that she does differently or color toning that she does differently. But overall, I think for me would be the client experience and what I need to do to engage with that client.
Makes sense. George, what about you? What's the one big thing that you probably will take and use, and one thing that maybe is not for you?
Well, I really can't identify something that may not be for me. But there are a couple of things that I definitely have already implemented and things that I'm working to implement. And piano fingers was one of the things that I recently had the opportunity to implement. I was a couple of weeks ago, I was on location working with talent with another lead photographer, and we were reviewing the images while she was having makeup refreshed, and we noticed the issue with her hands kind of being in an awkward position. So I, once we resumed the shoot, I yelled out, just think piano fingers, and the young lady instantly got it, and her hand just kind of flattened out and was relaxed, and it worked. It worked, and we got the shots that we needed. So definitely gonna implement piano fingers into my repertoire of things and making sure that the hands look good. But the biggest thing that I plan to implement, because I am retooling, being new to the area, I'm retooling my food and beverage business. So I'm in the process of building a leave behind book, but now I want to include some fun facts of things that could be included with that leave behind book that could actually be mailed to a customer or a potential customer that I've targeted to show them to maybe gain a little bit more interest in working with me as a food and beverage photographer. So definitely the customer interaction, the building of that client relationship. I'm looking to implement those things into my business.
Right on. Yeah. So for people who don't know what you mean when you say piano fingers, can you explain a little bit about what that was?
Yeah. So, if you talk to old film photographers, they'll give you not a dissertation, but they'll give you a lengthy speech on photographing hands and portraiture. And, a lot of times, your client, because there may be some nervousness or, that being in front of the being in front of the camera feeling, sometimes their hands may be clenched or unnatural looking, or they're, showing a little bit too much of the back of the hand, and you just want them to relax. And a lot of times it's got something to do with that index finger, so piano fingers just really, to me, it caught my attention because it was a quick, easy, subtle way of getting the talent to relax their hands. And that just instantly stuck with me. And when I had the opportunity to use it, I just was like, piano fingers, and
like, yes.
Right, and a few people chuckled, but she instantly got it, and
right.
it helped us, get over that hurdle really quickly because we were in a time pressed situation trying to get shots in this COVID environment. So, those subtle takeaways, and that's why I said earlier, there are a ton of gems in this tutorial. There are tons of gems in this tutorial. You just, again, there's just so many, but that was one that stuck for me.
Right on. I love that. Yeah. I mean, and I was thinking when you even said that, like piano fingers, I was like, piano. And then I was like, oh, like, piano fingers, like, right. Piano, like, oh, press it, and then you get into some place that looks nice eventually, like, yeah, makes perfect sense. So thank you for that little gem, Jay. Even for people who haven't watched the tutorial, will now be able to steal piano fingers. Yeah, and I've heard, and some people I've heard them mention before ballet hands, but that's a hard one because you're like, well, what does that mean? Is that like, what do you do? What does that? How do you ballet hands? What does it mean? But piano is a little more tactile. I mean, you kind of, everybody has seen somebody play the piano before, so it seems to make sense. Olga, what about you? What was the one thing you think you're definitely going to take and use, and the one thing that might not be for you?
I'm just going to be a broken record here and talk about the client experience, and just for me, just to remind myself that why are we a photographer? Why do we have client? It's for the client. So just, the pre-invitation that she sends out, I was like, oh yeah, I should totally do that. And then just all the after work and just how much she goes into each client, which is like, you want the big bucks, you have to actually, interact with your clients and sit down with them and send them things. And it was a really good reminder. And I actually just got a bigger studio space. So this kind of tutorial came into a perfect time in my life where now I can do the reveals inside the studio and like make a kind of a prettier, grander type thing. And I don't really have anything else that I don't really would take away other than maybe shooting in at 6-inch heels, because dang, I could never. She's just like rocking the glam look. I could never shoot in 60. I'm like, what are you doing? My shoes are off. I'm barefoot and running around and scooting on the floor. There's no way.
Who knew that her talent extended that? Like, woo, girl.
That's definitely one thing I won't be doing either. I won't be wearing heels.
I gotta say, my respect went up way. I'm like, I can't even like wear them to a meeting for very long before I'm like lifting my feet out of them. So that is one tough, fabulous woman right there.
And all right. Nicole, I'm sorry, but there was one more thing that I noticed that Jay does. She always has awesome high-end photos of herself. And I love that. I think that's the best promotion for a photographer, is to have, another photographer take high-end photos of you to promote you and your business. So that's something else that, because, some of my photos of me are, just kind of at random, but I thought that was really, really awesome that, she's like a whole mood when it comes to her photos. You know what I mean?
She is.
She sells it. Like, this is what I do, right? So I'm definitely looking to include it, because I think it also sells the idea that you are more than a professional. You really know your business. So I'm definitely going to be including that as well.
That's such a good point. I know we're often so guilty of like, we don't want to get our portrait taken. We might take them ourselves. Like I'll set my camera up in studio. We might get a selfie, but we're very rarely like, do we want to put ourselves in the position of our client? And I mean, that's definitely another bonus for her, that she knows what it feels like to stand in front of that camera. And I know that's a big part of her why and her past experience with what it feels like to be photographed and to not come out of that feeling beautiful or valuable. And so, yeah, that's a huge point, George. So I'm glad you brought it up. And unfortunately, guys, that is about the end of our hour. So friends in the audience, if you have any more questions about luxe portraiture and retouching, if you want to know anything from the experience of these photographers who have already seen it and already used it, I mean, we already have some images that they've started creating based on what they've learned. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask them. So please get those in, because otherwise we won't have any. And we'll have to go and say goodbye, and that'll be sad. And you'll have questions that didn't get answered. So get those in now. And in the meantime, what was your, guys, did you have a favorite shoot from the tutorial? Like one that you liked the best?
For me, it was that whole shoot. I forget her name. What was her name? With the gloves. They did something with the gloves.
Oh, Jade.
And, yeah, Jade. Oh my goodness, a beautiful person. Beautiful job with the sets, with the gloves, the gel. Blue is my favorite color. I think she did something with the blue gels.
Yeah.
That whole set, and I think you guys used it for promo stuff.
Oh yeah.
That whole set was on point. So, and I'm sad that she can't be here with us and talk through that process with us here. But that whole set with Jade was amazing.
Yeah, love that one too. Unfortunately, Jay is in the middle of moving right now. She literally has movers in her house, but she will be here tomorrow, folks, for our live launch day celebration at 6:30 p.m. Jay will be here, so you get a chance to talk to her and ask her questions. She's going to announce the winner of the backdrop giveaway, so it's all going to be very exciting. Guys, favorite shoots: Dave, Barbara, George, Olga. What was your favorite?
Monique was my fave.
I would have to say Monique and the one where she was smoking, because it's so like different compared to all the other shoots, because the other ones are glam, but that one is just so noir, and girl loves a little smoke in the photo. So I think it like, yeah, it's just a piece of art, and I really, really loved it. And I didn't really expect it at first, so it was just kind of like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I echo Carlos. I loved the Jade, the gloves as well. It seems so simple, like pink gloves, a pink backdrop, and that's it. And I loved how she used a V flat as a table.
Yeah.
And I have those, and I never thought of doing that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can have a table now. So yeah, I love that one. It's great.
Yeah, I liked all of them, because there was a I'm sorry, Nicole, I just did, because there was a different.
No, don't be sorry. I want your honesty. So I love that you love them all. That makes me happy.
There was a different approach in every shoot, right? And then the diversity of the shoot shows that she can, there's no range for her. She can just go in and create and make things happen, right? And give you that polished image at the end. But because I have had the opportunity to interact with Mo, it was good to see Mo dolled up on the camera and do her thing. And I think Mo killed it, so that was.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely would say that, all of them were my favorite. But since, Mo killed it. I liked it.
Yeah, that's a hard to deny one. I remember the first time I saw Mo too, I was like, dang, I wish I could photograph her.
Right.
Now I'm jealous that Jay got to and I didn't. But yeah, I agree. There's so much to love from each of those shoots and the differences there. And also being able to get walked through how she approaches why she's doing each thing with each client and what they want and how she's putting those things together. So helpful to be able to see that, because that's often what we don't see when we get to see other photographers shoot. We don't get to see this client really loves this, or these are her passions, and so this is how, or this is why this mood board is perfect for her because, and why we're styling it this way. Or even just when she in the shoot with Jade, when she's like, I saw this beautiful image that was an inspiration and I couldn't find a dress like this anywhere, so we built it with petticoats and a slip and some clips. Like, hey, getting it done. Love it. All right, guys, since we don't have any more questions today, first, let me just say a huge thank you to all of our Pro Team members for being here today, for Dave and Barbara and Olga and George. You guys are the real MVPs. Thank you so much for taking your time to go through, watch the tutorial, give us your thoughts, and then be willing to be here today to share them with our entire community so they can learn if this is going to be the right tutorial for them. So truly, truly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And for all the friends that are still watching, guys, Luxe Portraiture and Retouching launches tomorrow. It has been in the works for a while. We've killed ourselves with this one. We're so excited to share it with you. We can't wait to see the difference that it's going to make, not only in the work that you're producing, but in your business and in your sales and in the happiness of your clients. So really, really cannot wait to get that out there for you. If you want to learn more, you need to go to proedu.com and /products / Luxe Portraiture Retouching with J. Mayhew. I mean, even if you just head to the site, it's going to be on there. So I went a little bit wild, but go there, check it out. You'll be able to see some of the images that were created, learn a little bit more about what's in the tutorial, what you guys are going to get. 63 total videos, 7.5 hours with raw images, the pre-production, business tips, client interviews, get to see the shoots, get to see the retouching, when she's culling, why she picks what she picks. So much good stuff there. So I hope you will go and check it out. And come see us tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central for our launch day celebration and backdrop winner announcement. And Jay will be here so you can ask her all your questions. All right, everybody, that's it for today. And until tomorrow, I hope you will come back and see us one more time for our Pro Team. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us.
This was fun. Thanks.
All right, friends. Bye.
Thanks, Take care.
Bye-bye.